Here you are, face to face in this trashy bar.
Welcome back to the Legacy Leaders podcast, where we talk about leadership that doesn't just perform, but nurtures the people who make it possible. I'm Janice Elsley, your host for today, leadership and change expert, international author, and unapologetic believer in doing leadership differently. Today, I'm thrilled to bring you a conversation with someone who has spent over 30 years leading in some of the most high-stakes environments imaginable. From the Australian Army to the Australian Signals Directorate, and now is the founder and CEO of Akela Group, Brad Watson has built his career on one core principle, that exceptional leadership starts with trust, accountability, and deep self-awareness. Brad's work at Akela Digital focuses on helping organizations navigate business transformation, cybersecurity, and organizational change, not just through technology alone, but through the people who lead it. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Brad, welcome to Legacy Leaders podcast.
Hi, Janice. No, thank you very much for having me. It's a real privilege and looking forward to the chat.
Perfect. All right. So, Brad, you've had an absolutely extraordinary career. The military, intelligence, public service, and now the private sector. What's the one leadership lesson that stayed with you across all of those environments?
It's actually one that's drilled into you right from the start, even from back in the Army days, and that's carried all the way through, is trust. Your staff or your soldiers or whoever it is has to have trust in you as a leader, and therefore you earn their trust by being that. And you have to be transparent, and you have to able to lead from within, but from the front as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really, really powerful, Brad. And I think what you're actually describing there is exactly what I talk about when I say leading from the inside out. You can't build trust with others if you haven't done the internal work yourself. Now, tell me, Brad, you've led teams through crisis, through transformation, through high pressure situations where stakes were life or death. And what does it actually take to build a high performance team in that type of environment?
Part of it's actually, as I said, the trust side of the house, but also recognising that you don't have all the answers yourself as that team lead. Your team members will have different strengths and weaknesses. You all will, and including yourself as a leader.
Yeah.
And the team has to be able to cover off on each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And some of the team members are going to have more knowledge about a particular topic. And so sometimes it's best to let them lead that activity as well. But also, look, to be honest, yes, I do have a very healthy ego, but you've got to be able to set that ego aside.
Yeah.
Because you're not always the best person to lead a particular activity. Sometimes the biggest thing that I've had to learn, and I learned it the hard way, was as a leader when to be involved in whatever's happening, but also when to get out of the way and let the staff, the team do what they need to do as well. That was a big learning thing for me, and that's followed what I've seen all the way from Army, as I said, intelligence operations, and in the private sector, and even in government, as a public servant. Yeah, is your team has to be able to do what it needs to do, and you train them up well. Yeah, and to the point where they can actually do things without being told, and you need to know when to be involved, when to get out of the way, and trust. Yeah,
and I think that's great when you talk about trust, because obviously that comes with that psychological safety as well.
Absolutely, and that's a very important point. The psychological safety, they've got to be able to point out when things aren't working, and what the issues. If there's things that need to be improved, like my team told me point blank, boss, you're the problem. You need to get out of the way, and let us do what we need to do.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, because if you're operating from a place of stress, your team also picks up on that. So it's great that they've sort of said, Brad, you need to step aside, and that you've actually taken that feedback on board. Now, Brad, I want to ask you something personal. So I know that there was a fire. We've known each other for quite a while, and I've worked with you a number of times now. Now, I know that obviously that there was a fire that we talked about, an accident that really shaped, your resilience and your grit. Yeah. Can you briefly touch on that and how it's actually influenced the way that you lead today?
No, absolutely. I mean, it was a house fire. and you've seen the photos of how badly I was burnt up and everything like that. So it was a barbecue gas bottle went wrong, blew up, and my son, Jared, the actions that he took that night are the only reasons why I'm still alive.
Yeah.
As the thing erupted as I was barbecuing. He, as someone who's never been, he was someone who'd never been in a crisis before, never been trained, but he showed natural leadership skills that night and, put me out as I was burning all over. We then got up, raced into the house to try and fight the fire. He ignored me and came in rather than stayed out. But then as I was focusing on fighting the fire, he was actually maintaining situational awareness, which you need to have someone in a team doing. And then as he saw the roof starting to collapse in on us, he's the one that picked me up and then carried me out the front door just as everything collapsed.
Amen.
And then that's when the emergency services turned up. So he just actually started coordinating the emergency services, the fireys, the AMBO and everything else.
Yeah.
And then after that, as I was laid up in bed for bandages and everything for months, he took over the running of the company with the other managing directors and the staff and everything. And he's one of the key reasons why the business, why Akela Group, is actually kept going all through that time. But we had in place contingency plans. We had in place, before that happened anyway, we had in place succession plans. We had in place, transfer of powers and everything like that. So that'll happen seamless. Well, I won't say seamlessly, but and there were lessons that were learned out of it that we refined. But it also allowed me to, as I was laid up in bed for all that time, having my woe is me moments and chances to reflect on things. One of the things that got me through that process was the determination to rebuild, the determination to change things in the company that we wanted to realign to what we want to spend more time doing and what stuff we just didn't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
So there was, I guess, multiple elements across there about, I wouldn't have survived the night if it hadn't have been for grit and determination of Jared.
Yeah.
His natural leadership skill sets, and the business probably would have suffered way worse than what it did through that period if relevant team members and once again Jared not stepping into that natural leadership role.
Yeah.
And everything as well. So
Absolutely.
Succession planning is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And so so you just touched on obviously the fire, but you talked about the leadership and Jared. What about Akela Group? Tell me what Akela Group does, because you've just talked about how you've allowed more time to sort of shift and concentrate more on the business. What do Akela Group do?
So we started off as a digital transformation and cyber back in the day, 5 years ago, a bit over 5 years ago now. And then we still do that, but not in certain areas now, or not in certain capabilities, but we've expanded naturally or organically, and it's been through client demand, into business optimization, business change, and business resilience.
Yeah, great.
As well, and then into commercial issues such as procurement, strategic vendor management, and supply chain aspects in that as well. Things that we moved away from were things that we actually just didn't enjoy doing, and they were just a right raw pain.
Yeah.
And so after the fire and everything, the company regrouped and we looked at, right, where's the things we actually want to focus on, that we enjoy doing, that makes an actual tangible difference. And certainly the IT or AI or whatever, technology-based or technology-initiated organisational change is a big thing, because the world is changing.
Yeah.
The AI, the automation, everything, and it's about to hit Australia quite rapidly. So organisations are going to have to adapt and change.
So let's talk about that. So, the organisational change, so you've seen it from every single angle, from the military operations and intelligence work, and now really helping businesses navigate that digital transformation. What's the biggest mistake do you think leaders make when they're trying to lead change?
Honestly, they forget the human factor.
Yeah.
Right? The humans, you can put in place as much technology, automation, AI platforms or whatever, as much as you like. But unless you factor in your staff, the human element, what are you actually going to do?
Yep.
Are they going to be ready to adopt to this new changes? We've seen organisations just do a brute force and, certain situations, that is what is best. And we've been involved in a couple of those. But but they've been very planned and considered approaches.
Yeah.
And the client knew what the end result was going to be and was prepared to wear that.
Yeah.
But those that just bulldoze through without proper planning, without proper aspects across their human or their staff, for example, are they going to downsize their staff? Are they going to re-roll staff into more strategic jobs?
Yeah.
Do they have the right staff to do that? Are the staff able to cope with those changes?
Yeah.
And what's going to be the best way to do it? That's where the real planning has to happen.
Yeah.
So that falls a lot into your space.
Yes.
And that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I see that, I suppose, all the time where leaders think that they can just push change through that logic and that strategy, but they actually forget that people are wired to connect, not to comply. So you really have to create that sense of safety and that belonging before you can move people sort of along that journey. Now let's talk about cybersecurity. It's one of the biggest threats organizations face today, but it's often treated as a technology problem. So how do you help leaders understand that it's actually a people and culture problem?
Look, it's even the organizations that have all the right cybersecurity tools and software in place, they still have cybersecurity issues because the human element, once again, is sometimes they're the initiators. You have the accidents that occur.
Yeah.
You have the malicious or deliberate activities that occur by some staff or by outsiders. You have, some. All right, let's be honest. Some elements of an organisation, some staff are lazy, and so they don't do their jobs properly, and so therefore things occur. Organisations don't have sufficient budget to do all the work that's required. And so once again, your bread and butter things that are going to keep you out of trouble don't necessarily get done. But also staff training, staff suitability are key aspects. And that as well, once again, taking into account that human nature of things. If you don't look after that side, the technology, you can have the best technology in the world.
Yeah, and I think that's great, where we talk about it's not just about the technology, it really is about the people using it, and that requires that different type of leadership. So Brad, what does leadership look like in the age of AI, cyber threats and constant disruptions, and what do you think leaders need to focus on right now? We talked about continuous learning.
So leaders need to be adaptable and need to be able but also need to be able to adapt quickly, change plans or change direction, but through considered decision-making. And sometimes you might only have a couple of days to go through that considered decision-making, and you've got to make whatever decisions based on what information you have available at the time. Adaptability and flexibility, you've got to be able to, once again, take care of your human elements, your staff, and that as well. So you have to be able to establish that trust because if staff don't have that trust in you to change the direction of the organisation or to adapt new technologies or re-rolling positions, if the staff don't believe, all right, the boss has got my back, they'll look after me, then it's not going to work. You'll have staff leave.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I suppose that's what this podcast is really about. It's helping leaders build that internal capacity, I suppose, to really lead through that complexity and to stay really grounded when everything around them is shifting. And because the rate of change is absolutely constant, it is going so fast that our brains are not able to be able to process it properly. And I think before we wrap up, Brad, what's one piece of advice that you give to a leader who's feeling overwhelmed by the pace of change right now?
Step back.
Yep.
Step back and look at the bigger picture, but also use that as a time to take a breath. Just, because if you're running at 1,000,000 miles an hour with your hair on fire, you're going to get lost and you're going to miss things. But also have a trusted network of peers that you can bounce things off as well. So other trusted leaders, like, say, for example, some of your leadership groups or courses and training and that you do, certainly some of those entities would be a good basis for leaders to be able to just bounce ideas off each other in a trusted environment, because no one's got all the answers.
No.
Right? And you have to be able to seek advice from others that may have already been through it.
Yeah.
You go, look, dude, what worked and what didn't work? I'm drowning here.
Yeah.
What help can you give me? All right. But certainly taking that step back.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, thanks for being here today. I suppose your insights have been absolutely invaluable, and I know that our listeners are going to take so much from this conversation. If people want to learn about Akela Group and the work that you're doing, where can they find you?
So obviously our website, akelagroup.com.au. We also have LinkedIn and everything as well. We're doing a lot of public activities, like, for example, we're a key sponsor of the Cybersecurity Champions of Tomorrow. So we're running a whole bunch of free or sponsorship activities and everything like there as well.
Yeah.
But generally we're doing a lot of the public speaking now as well. But more than happy for people to reach out directly and or through the website, inquiries at akelagroup.com.au, and happy to have a chat. Good coffees or single malt whiskey.
Perfect. Well, Brad, thanks again. And to everyone that's been listening today, if this conversation has sparked something in you, share it with another leader who needs to hear it. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. We will put everything in the show notes in terms of how you can get through to Brad. It helps more leaders find this message. So until next time, I'm Janice Elsley, and this is Legacy Leaders Podcast. Let's lead with clarity, trust, and lead with legacy. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Janice.